Hey guys, what up? What it do? It's me, it's Paris. Yep. For you guys who don't know me, right? There are some of you that do, but if you don't know me, I'm Paris. And we're talking today. We're continuing our series about depression. And I know that sounds depressing to some of you all, but I'm trying to tell you, people don't have enough conversations about it. You'll see somebody post a status, you'll disregard it and keep moving because guess what? It's not you, or you haven't told anybody it's not you. I mean, that it is you. So then you don't really feel like you have somewhere you can talk about it. So today we're going to talk about it. I am sharing real quick, and I would like for you guys to share as well. How's your day been? Did you guys get some stuff done? Did you get some rest? Do you feel restful? Um, I am pretty good. It's Thursday. It's Thankful Thursday, and we are mostly through the week. So I'm grateful. I'm truly grateful. I hope you guys are keeping safe, keeping warm, and keeping busy. So, um, just to share. Yeah. Okay. I think that I'm starting out here. I got it over there together. Hey Whitley, cuz. Hey, what's up? How was your day, Whitley? I'm hoping everybody's day was amazing. I hope that you know, you got what you need to get done. Sometimes it's hard for you to feel like you was productive. That's the word, productive. That's definitely sometimes it's hard, but I definitely want to make sure that hopefully we got some stuff done. And then guess what? If you didn't get everything done, it's okay because you live to do it again tomorrow, right? That's how you gotta look at it, right? Hey mom, how are you? Hey Mama Pat. Good. I'm glad your day was good, Willie. I'm so glad. Um, so let's see. I'm gonna get started. Um, I know you guys are probably saying, Paris, you've talked about depression before, but let me tell you what you don't realize. I've never done a series on depression. I've probably talked about it a little bit here or there, or how people suffer from it. Or if you remember when I started this whole live, these conversations, I used to talk about it a lot because I feel like people were silently suffering and not talking about it, right? Did not know much about it, just knew enough to say what the experiences I've had with it and around it, right? And so I'm at a different place right now. Anybody who doesn't really know me, they know I'm in school right now for psychology. So I've done more studies about it. And while I don't know everything, I know enough to have an intelligent conversation. And this is what this is about, having conversation that shift the patterns, right? Oftentimes I feel like we don't talk about depression until it's too late. Until it's too late. And I just want to be very clear about, not us not being ashamed of it. This is about ridding the stigma that's associated with mental health. And want to give you guys some facts, some symptoms, and also I want to dispel some myths, right? I really do want to dispel some myths about depression, which is why if you saw my title, which is why I put that title in there, depression. Why can't you just be happy? That is definitely a myth. And I believe people to this day still say it. So we want to be very conscious about how we act and treat things. And so I think this is going to be a good conversation and a good series overall. Hey, Yolanda girl. Okay, so I wanted to give some facts first because I don't think everybody knows these facts. And so I want to be very intentional in that, right? I want to give the facts. So here where they are. Number one. So whether you know it or not, depression is the number one mental health issue that people deal with in the world. Yes. I know That's not hard to believe. It shouldn't be hard to believe, but I think some people are still very naive about it, right? I think that people just still really believe that, oh, that's just my extra friend, or they just extra, they this and that. They not really, feeling it. But what you don't realize, it is so much more common than you know, right? And if you haven't dealt with it before, which I don't buy, because I'll tell you why in a minute, then um, that doesn't mean that someone close to you isn't dealing with it currently or has dealt with it. Okay. So let me give you some numbers. 17.7 million Americans experience depression. That's a lot, right? That's a lot. There is a 50% chance that if you had an episode with depression, that you're going to have one again. Meaning, if you just had an episode of depression, you're probably going to have one again. Therefore, we need to talk about it, because sometimes you say, well, that just happened to me. And it just was one time because of this one situation. It'll probably not happen to me again. And the numbers don't say that, right? 35% of adults who have depression do not receive treatment. That's a number that's staggering and scary. You know why it's scary? It's because people know they have depression, but won't get treated for it. They think that it's just something that can't be treated, and they just live with it, and it becomes a prison sentence for them. Isn't that sad? Isn't it sad? Wouldn't it be something if you found out that you had cancer and you never went to the doctor to get it treated? Would it be something if you found out you had heart disease, you didn't go to the doctor to get it treated? People be like, why would you do that? Like, what would you do that? It's like, it's a death wish. And people don't look at mental health the same way, which I'm trying to be here to change that, right? The reality of it is that what happens to you mentally, it affects your whole body. It affects you physically. There's even a thing about depression that says it physically hurts you. So like, you can hold something in and be depressed, and it makes you physically sick. So guess what? You can become physically sick and manifest strokes, heart attacks. We all know people deal with depression. It's so severe that they commit suicide. So let's be very clear. Depression is something that you shouldn't play with, and we should not be minimalistic about it, right? When someone tells you that they're suffering with it. I think there's this thing on Facebook now where people kind of feel like, oh, people are so dramatic, they just want attention, and that's why they're talking about it. They're not really depressed. Who are you to diagnose them? Are you a doctor? Are you? And even if you are a doctor, have you sat with them and talked with them and did a proper diagnosis? Oh, you haven't. So guess what that means? Don't put your mouth on them. And somebody who's really a doctor wouldn't do such a thing, right? Because they understand the severity of a situation. You dare not have somebody speak their truth and you minimize it because you don't like how they did it. Remember we talked about that when we talked about how affected communication. We talked, I think it was the 4 T's was timing, tone, technique, and truth. And we said if the tone, timing, and the technique was wrong, if it's still the truth, will you listen? Meaning that you might not like how they say it, but if it's the truth, you still need to listen. And so, y'all pray for Onyx, because I don't know if we're gonna make it to this live without me getting on heart. But Onyx is my cat. Okay. And so, yeah, Yolanda, you said there's a lot of people on Facebook that are like that. Yeah, people are very judgmental. They're like, ugh, they just want attention. They saying something for attention. And my thing is, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I've thought that before about some people, especially if they do it often. But then somebody had to give it to me another way to look at it. And the other way to look at it was, what if they don't have somebody that's a safe place? What if they don't have anybody to yell out to? What if this is their only chance? It's their last resort, and they feel that desperate that that's their last resort? Are we going to tell them that this is not acceptable? Are we going to say it's not acceptable for them to reach out? Now I just have to say different things. Like when I see somebody say that, like I a lot of times I don't need the attention of it, but I might inbox them and say, hey, if you really need to talk, I'm here. Because I get it. It gets dark sometimes. It gets lonely sometimes. You feel like most people don't commit suicide because they just want to die. Most of them don't see a way to live, right? So if your depression is severe enough, you just don't see how you're going to do it any longer. So, we have to be very, very conscious about it. And that's why I want to have this conversation, because people are not real and they're not sensitive enough, they're not self-aware enough, and they're not educated. So let's have the conversation. They said about you, Yolanda, and they said, well, yeah, I know you don't. But see, that's the problem about it, is that, people are uneducated and they just say something, right? Because it gets a laugh, or they just want to sound like they right, or they want to ridicule people, and they don't even realize they're now bullying the person that is dealing with it. You know what I'm saying? And that's where we have to be super careful. That's why I want to have this conversation. So I'm going to give a couple of those were some numbers I gave about depression. I'm going to give a few more numbers here. 3.1 million people between the ages of 12 and 17, that means you're teenagers, have experienced at least one major depressive episode in the past year. I want to say that again. 3.1 million people between the ages of 12 and 17 have experienced at least one major, not minor. We're not talking about your kid, your daughter having a breakdown because you didn't give her that skirt. We're not talking about your son mad because you didn't buy him that game. I'm talking about a major depressive episode in the past year. If you have kids, do you know that? If you have grandchildren, did you know that? Do you take it seriously if they say it? Are you telling them to toughen up, man up, stop tripping, stop being so dramatic? Come on, I know I'm stepping on toes because I've heard it. I've heard people say it. Stop being so dramatic. You know how you are. Oh my God, you're just so all over the place. You're so sensitive. And you know what? I can't even be honest before. I'm guilty of have said things before in the past, especially if I felt like I knew that person, if I felt like they were, they were trying to win the conversation or whatever it could be, right? Whatever my reasoning was, I now know that reason was not good enough. Okay? I now know that reason was not all right. And I don't care what I thought. What you're supposed to do is just be kind. Even if you think they are just going there, you have to think of what is the worst that can happen if they are just lying? Well, nothing. What is the worst that can happen if they aren't lying? Well, they can hurt themselves. Okay, what chance am I willing to take? Well, I'm willing to take a chance to say that they probably are just I don't want to take the chance to say that they are not dealing with a depressive episode and they hurt themselves. I wouldn't be able to live with myself and I would miss them terribly. Okay, so if that's the case, let's stop and think about that, and let's stop denying people of their truth, right? And so this is what this conversation is for, right? So let's think about that. We have to be so careful with our words. Nobody's perfect. I know. Okay. And I'm not expecting people to be perfect, but I also want to be very clear that even if you're not perfect, let's be intentional. Let's be more self-aware so that we're dealing with this right. And if you are somebody that's dealing with depression, then I want us to be more vocal, and I want us to create a community where we have these conversations so it's not so taboo, so it's not something that we just hide, so it's not something that we sit here and pretend like it's not happening, so it's not something that when it comes up we don't know what to do with it, right? So this is why we have these conversations. Yolanda, you said your oldest son had multiple episodes before his brain bleed and one recently after. Yeah, I know. I hope and that's where people don't even realize that the physical stuff can affect the mental stuff, and vice versa. The mental can affect the physical. So it's they don't know everything about depression they need to know. It's so related and interrelated. And so you just have to be super, super, super very careful. And I'm sure you as a great mom trying to make sure that you are there for him in every way possible, right? I know that's scary because you're like, wait a minute, I just got over this hurdle and now this. So I'm continuing praying for you and your son. And then you said your oldest daughter had one episode. Listen, and that's why I wanted to share that stat. Between the ages of 12 and 17, they've had at least one major episode. They didn't say their whole life, this year alone. Let's think about this. That stat that I was just given, that's not even a pandemic. That's just in their life. Within a year, they've had a major episode. And so sometimes we're so out of touch with our kids, or we tell them, oh, there you go, being ungrateful. Or when I was a youngin, you don't know what we had to do. We had to walk 10 miles and we had to do this, do that. And you know what? I'm guilty of saying something like that before. Not when my son said my son never, well, I don't remember him saying, I didn't say it's about depression, but I said about something else. But y'all, ain't we guilty sometimes of saying stuff like, y'all kids got it easy. You don't even know what it's like to be upset. I had to do this, and that. I had to pick cotton. I had to do all this. And it's because we were taught to be tough and survive. And unfortunately, we enforce this struggle love. This struggle love that says that their truth can't be true because their life is so far cushier than ours, and they don't know what it's like to live a harsh life. And the reality is, if we think about that, why do we want them to know what it's like to live a harsh life? Why, if our child says something wrong with them, why can't we take them at the value and then deal with whatever the situation is from there? This is stuff to think about, guys. I'm not saying if this is you, if you've been there, you've done that, let's be careful because, hey, we all have, but it's a matter of now knowing better, doing better. Mama Pat, you said you were a person suffering from deep depression and you wanted to die because the pain in your life was so hard. You felt tormented, lost, and alone, and you didn't realize it was depression. Or others just felt as though you were misbehaving or behaving in a manner that said to them, I didn't have time for them. See, and you see that you said you had deep depression. And see, that's the thing about it. A lot of times people don't even share this because they do. They feel like people would judge them or think that they were just acting out. And it's sad that you couldn't feel like you really could share, and that you said it was so deep that you wanted to die. That's the part where I just want us to get to a point where we talk about this and normalize this so much where someone can say, man, yeah, I suffer with this type of depression and I am doing this, this, and this to try to get help. And let's, be accountable for each other. Let's be support systems, so that we can make sure our lives are not felt alone, right? Everybody wants to talk about depression after something bad happened, but let's talk about it now so we know what to do and we can be of help. So that's so good. Yes, Mama Pat, you said we become dismissive. That's what happens as a culture. We become super dismissive. Sometimes parents, we become dismissive. Family members become dismissive. Friends even sometimes become dismissive about what it had. And we don't even realize it. And I've heard some people say, I don't talk about depression because nobody cares about it. And I understand that now. I understand why they said that, because people say they care, but it's almost like they don't really care until after something bad happens. And then they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. But when I was telling you something was going on, you told me it was no big deal. You didn't really care. So I just really want us to start talking about this more and being more equipped, because I've heard some people on the other side of that say, yeah, I heard they were depressed, but I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to do about it. I don't know I'm not equipped to handle that. And I understand that. You're not a psychiatrist, you're not a therapist, so I understand that you're not a doctor. However, there's some very basic things you can do to help support the people in your life that might be dealing with this, right? And so let's do better than just shutting down and being dismissive, right? And Yolanda, you said at one point you were deep in it and you attempted suicide. Sis, and you know what, I appreciate your transparency and your honesty. The reality of it all is that people have went so dark and people didn't even know, you know what I'm saying? And people don't even know that they're going through it. They see your shine, but they don't know about your pain. They don't understand those nights that you sat there and cried yourself to sleep. And so that's the reality about it, is us having these conversations so we can be there as a support system for people so that they're not feeling this alone and this down. I think that people glaze over this depression thing so much. Like, oh yeah, they depressed. Or people joke about it. Yeah, I was depressed. I ate a tub of ice cream. Baby, depression ain't just eating ice cream until you blow up. It's about like really having some hard times in your life that's so dark that you feel debilitated. You feel like you can't get up. It gets real, and it gets real fast. And it feels like it's like a deep pit that you just can't get out of, right? And that's why I wanted to talk about certain things, because I feel like really, I think that people are not taking it as seriously as they should. And I really want to change that, right? I just want to change the conversation, right? Let's get into the conversation. So let's see. Do I need to give a definition for it? Let me give a definition for depression. Well, it's a medical illness. Um, and it's hard because it's so different to kind of say. It's so many different types of depression. But if I had to get a definition, I'm gonna give you psychology definition for it, okay? So that we just have a definition. I'm all about definitions lately. Feelings of severe dependency and dejection. I don't like that one. I will use this one. A mental health disorder characterized by persistently depressed mood or loss of interest in activities, causing significant impairment in daily life. Um, that's the clinical definition for depression. That's one that probably we can all relate to and say that's what it is. Let's talk about some uh, signs. There's a few ways people describe depression. When somebody has lost the ability to enjoy life, um, when they can't be optimistic about their future. Like, when you talk to somebody about goals, they're like, oh, that'll never happen. They can't find hope. They can't find, like, the idea of looking forward to something. They can't do it. It's like someone said it's like feeling like you're stuck in a box and you can't get out. You ever heard somebody say feel like the walls are caving in on them? That's like a part of it too, where you feel like you just can't get from under it. Um, you feel like you don't matter. And that's a hard one, right? When people feel like they don't matter to the people that's around them, then that becomes super, super dangerous, because if they don't feel like they matter, then why be here, right? So we have to be careful with that one. Shame and embarrassment. That's the one I hear about a lot. They are embarrassed and shamed about everything that happens, anything. Like they can trip a little bit. Oh my God. Like everything caused them shame. Even if everybody does it, they trip over a word. To me, I trip over a word, I'll laugh about it. Somebody else that can be depressed can trip over a word and literally be lamenting and depressed about it for a whole week and crying because they literally can't get it out their mind. They keep replaying it over and over again. Mama Pat, you said that's something that caused you to forget reality. That's good too, because what it is it takes you to this level where it's not really reality at all. I mean, it's your reality, but it's like a skewed reality. Everything seems so much harsher than it is. Everything seems so less concerning than it is. Everything you can take into the wrong filter and think to someone that's not, caring for you. Like someone can say, oh, at work, next time can you make sure that you staple these papers? And then you can internalize that and say that they said you did a horrible job, and now you are depressed all week because you heard that they criticized you, and they really were giving you constructive criticism, right? Let's see. I've heard people say, it feels like I'm an actor playing me and I'm being forced to smile when I don't feel like it. Oh my God, that one was so important. When I heard that one, I said, whoa, like I can imagine that. It feels like that you're an actor playing you and someone is forcing you to smile. So it's like you don't even know real joy or happiness, and that, like, you are suffering so much through life, but you don't want people to notice that you're suffering. So you pretend like everything's okay, but you're forcing a smile and you really just trying to get through the day. Isn't that crazy? I was like, whoa. And and most of them say they don't know why they feel that way. That feeling of the like emptiness and hopelessness. So also we some symptoms that we know about are difficulty concentrating, remembering things, feelings of guilt, helplessness, insomnia. Like if you're not able to sleep, that's a symptom of depression, which I didn't know that at first, but I guess that makes sense, especially if you're lamenting, thinking about something over and over again. The opposite is true. Excessive sleeping, right? That's another thing too. That's a really common one. Irritability, the loss of interest in your favorite activities or hobbies, things that you used to really be interested in. Like if you ever met somebody who they really were good at something, and then you ask them about like, hey, you still do that? And they be like, no, I don't do that. And you be like, well, why are you really good? I don't feel like doing it no more. So just don't ask me about it. You just like, oh, okay. And you're just kind of like, whoa, like, this person was like great at that. They used to love it. Sometimes they could be in a depressive mode because they just don't find interest in anything anymore. Obviously, people can overeat, be depressed and overeat. And then the opposite is true too, or they can have appetite loss, right? And then, of course, we know the thoughts of suicide, right? So that's very important to understand. Believe it or not, uh, the what's it called? There are all over the world. Depression is really prevalent. In some areas more than others, and of course, America is one of them. So we just have to definitely be careful, but it happens to everyone. Why does depression happen? Well, it's a lot of different reasons, and it's not one size fits all. But we'll just give a couple of them. A traumatic life event, such as a death in the family, a death of a friend. Um, uh, uh, you can lose a job. You can a relationship can break up. It could be a financial hardship. You could lose your house. You could you could be trying to find something, like if you're trying to find a job and you just can't, right? Or if you're trying to figure out your life's purpose and you just feel like you don't know what to do, that can even bring on depression, because you start feeling like, well, what am I here for? Like, why am I here in this world? I don't know why I'm here, right? And also bullying. We hear about bullying all the time, and I think some people are so dismissive about bullying, but it's a real thing. And you don't have to be a kid to be bullied. Adults are bullied. Absolutely are bullied. Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Pat, violence within your community or home. Absolutely, absolutely. That is a leading one, actually. Abuse, violence, growing up in a violent community. If anybody lived in the hood, in the projects, or just live in a bad neighborhood, you can develop depression as a means of your environment. Absolutely, you can, because you start to feel stuck. You feel like things are not just ever going to get better. And especially if you're in a home with violence, that makes you feel like you're even more trapped because it's even closer. So that was a good one. Yeah, thanks, Mom, for that one. I don't know how I forgot that one, but that's definitely a real one that people don't really think about enough, right? Let's see. I think I gave a couple of good ones away. I want to talk about the main types of depression that there is. And there are more. I'm not going to say that this is limited to a certain few. I'm going to tell you the most common types of depression, okay? And I'm not expecting you guys to write this down. Just want to give you a couple of them, because depression is not one size fits all. So you can say, oh, well, so-and-so doesn't have that, or I don't deal with that. You're going to have, everybody doesn't have all symptoms. Some people only have one symptom. Some symptoms are sometimes, very mild. Some symptoms are very severe. And so we have to be conscious that there's a wide spectrum of depression, right? And so we can't try to oversimplify it. You already know what my first suggestion is for anybody who thinks they have depression. I definitely believe you should go to a therapist, a counselor, talk to your doctor. Even if you don't feel like going to a therapist, go to your doctor and tell them, I am having thoughts that I know I'm right. I'm not sure what's going on, but I need to talk to somebody. That's a good start. But definitely don't keep it to yourself. And if you're not ready to talk to a doctor or something, talk to somebody that's a loved one that you can talk to and let them know. And this is why we're having these conversations. So when they finally do come to you guys and tell you that they're having depression, I'm going to give us some things we can do at the end of this so that we can make sure that we are being the best accountability and support system possible. So like I said, there's a spectrum of depression. Like there are some very mild symptoms that we've probably all dealt with from time to time, like some tiredness, loss of confidence, and even some indecision, right? Those just really mild stuff, right? When you get a little bit more heightened depressive symptoms, that's like moderate. That's when you're extremely fatigued. When you have no real reason. Like if you like, well, I got a lot of sleep the other day, but I don't know why I'm exhausted all the time. Or other people start noticing how depressed you are, or they'll say stuff to you. That's a good indication too, because sometimes we're so caught in a symptom that we don't even understand how we are showing up, and we don't even realize we are. Like you said, my mama Pat, you said about forgetting reality. Sometimes you're so deep in, you don't even realize you're depressed. Like you're just like, I'm fine. And it's because it's like that's like a defense mechanism, but you really are in a hole. You're in a deep hole and you're trying to dig yourself out. Isolation is a good one too. You said isolation. Yes, that is the number one indication when people isolate. And that's why I was also letting you guys know last year during the quarantine. I think that's why I felt like the heaviness from people, because I think a lot of people were dealing with the quarantine and being alone and not used to that. And if you already on the verge, and not to say that this pandemic even had to bring it on, but if you already had dealt with a smidget of it, of depression prior to it, oh my God, that had to send a lot of people over. And then what if they didn't have people that they were at home with or could talk to, or even the people that were at home with them were not listening, were not a good support system, were abusive, were violent, even more pushing them in that direction. So it was just so much of it the last couple years, and we're far from it. So, you know, again, there are different types of depression. I want to go in. I think I was talking about the severe. I think I talked about the mild and the moderate symptoms. I think we know about the severe suicidal thoughts, severe delusions or false beliefs, right? Hallucinations or hearing voices. I know we see that, and people always like to say, "Oh, that's crazy," but this is when you have the severe depressive symptoms, right? Somebody that's extremely negative. They can't see anything in a positive way. They don't have self-worth. They have no future prospects. And then they even have, they take negative thinking to such a level where they're trying to convince everybody else around it. And then when we have it, it turns into a actual condition, is bipolar disorder. I know people have heard of that. We're going to talk about that one day particularly. That's actually one type of depression. I'm sure everybody has heard of bipolar. It used to be called manic depressive, right? Because that's when you have the high highs and the low lows. And so that's actually one type of depression, the bipolar disorder. Let me give you guys a couple of other ones. Let's see. You guys, I know I'm just talking through this. I'm just trying to get the information out because I think a lot of people just are not educated enough to understand all the different types. Okay, so Tuesday we talked about seasonal affective disorder, which is also called seasonal depression or SAD, and that's when the weather changes and less sun is out and it's dark more, and it introduces a period of time where people are getting the depressive episodes, and they reoccur in the winter months, right? That's what we talked about on Tuesday. That's one. The other one I just said is bipolar disorder. That's one of them as well. Here's one that's pretty common that we don't talk about, and I'm going to talk about it on its own one day. Postpartum depression. We don't talk about that nearly as much as we should. We don't talk about postpartum depression nearly as much as we should. We talk about, we kind of like make fun of it. Oh, so-and-so. They had that postpartum. I don't know what was wrong with them. They tried. I was worried about them with their baby. And it's like, you don't offer any help. You don't go check on people. You don't say, you know what, you got this baby and you're working full time. Let me help watch the child. You need something. You need a day out for yourself or a couple of hours away. We don't support people that way. We rather talk behind their back and make them feel isolated. And then when something happens bad to the child, then it's like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. Were you watching them go through episodes and you just pretended like, this was some type of, what's the word I want to call it? Some type of like rites of passage. You know what I'm saying? Like I heard people, you see people say, oh, you got one child? Man, I got so many children. You don't even know. That's nothing. And it's like, wow, are you minimizing my experience? Now, I didn't deal with postpartum depression. per se. But what I will say is that we have our moments, right? And I had some really rough moments. And it's hard when somebody minimizes what your situation is because it's like some kind of competition. Well, oh, you only get that one child. Child, please. I had 13. And it's like, it's not a competition. I'm sure it was very hard having 13. But it's still hard having my one. And if I'm having a moment or if I'm going through postpartum, please don't make me feel or minimize what I'm doing and think I'm weak because of it. Right. So we're going to get into that really deep because I just get so concerned when I hear that people minimizing people's experiences and you wonder why people won't talk about it. And when they finally do talk about it, it's too late or something like that. Something bad has happened. Here is one called PDD, which is persistent depressive disorder, which means symptoms that are present on most days over a 2-year period. So if you're somebody who deals with depression regularly over more than a 2-year period, most days you feel depressive, that means that you probably have chronic, it's called chronic depression, clinical chronic depression. And that's just when you have it regularly. It's something that you experience every day and over long periods of time. There's another one called major depressive disorder, and that's any symptoms that are present for a little over 2 weeks, right? And for that one, if it doesn't go long term, that's when I usually call those situational depression. When people deal with that, something that's brought on by certain events and times, like I said, tragedies, transitions in life, changes that you're not ready to deal with. Even, certain things like having what's it called? Having what am I trying to say? Having a new thing happen, like getting married, or we already talked about a death in the family or a friend or something like that, or even Corona just happened. That's a major thing, a hurricane or major disaster, something that was changing your life. That one is really super. It affects a lot of people, and they can have lingering effects from that. It can last a little longer. Oh yeah, PTSD. Now I talked about PTSD when we talked about anxiety, but it definitely can go under the depression one, post-traumatic stress disorder. Yes, because remember I told you guys anxiety and depression, a lot of times they go hand in hand with each other. And PTSD is definitely something that is definitely under the depression umbrella. You say your youngest daughter has PTSD. Yes. Did you know they said that Chicago, some of the hoods in Chicago are so bad that they actually the kids, they did some sort of research and said that the kids that grew up in these neighborhoods are like the ones from the Middle East that have PTSD. They have the same type of PTSD of a war torn country. And I know people are like, oh, people just exaggerate, but I'm just saying it's something to that, right? We have to talk about stuff like that. When you're in these communities and you're trying to survive and you're trying to make sure you like your home without being shot, and you're trying to make sure that you eat every day, and you're trying to make sure that you're not dealing with somebody that's on drugs, it's that when you walk across the street or not being abducted, it is very traumatic, and we are minimizing sometimes these people's experiences, especially our kids. So I'm not surprised by that at all. It's just hard. Mama Pat, you said depression can also lead to the personality disorder. Absolutely. And that was the next one I was going to talk about too, because there's a lot of personality disorders, including the what's the one I just said? Bipolar disorder. There's also the multiple personality, the schizophrenia. You've heard of that before. That's part of it. It even depress think that falls under the psychotic depression. That's where you have presence of psychosis alongside of the depressive symptoms, and these are also mood and personality altering. Absolutely personality disorder, absolutely. And so we don't even realize all of those things exist. It's so important. And so like I said, it's so many deep there's so many types of it, we can't like minimize this. It's so much, and people are not educated, and we're not treating it right, and we don't think it affects us. Here's another one. I didn't want to bring up because I feel like give some man some things to say, but whatever. I'm joking, guys. But premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which means it's called PMDD. It's significant mood symptoms that occur during the menstruation phase. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't want to bring that up because I know some people are like, oh, you women go crazy during your menstrual cycle. But actually, it's a depressive disorder, I guess, that happens to women when they deal with their cycle. And it's these this chemical imbalance that causes them to I guess us women, I don't know if I've dealt with that or not, but to have these mood altering moments, especially these really down bouts of depression that can seem overwhelming, right? Completely overwhelming. And so that's just, again, those are not all of them. There's so many types of depression, but those are some big ones that that you might have heard of, some that you didn't think about at first. Those are just some that really that stuck out to me. And like I told you, like I said, the situational depression, that's something that we don't talk about enough. I personally think that everybody's been in and had a form of situational depression. Guaranteed. I don't care what you say. You can't prove me wrong. I just don't feel like you can. Even if you say you haven't, I don't believe you. I believe every human being that has emotions, that is alive, has had some form of depression. And every symptom is not the same. Depression does not mean you're crying all day. Depression does not mean that you are, just shrinking away. There are so many symptoms. And you can even be depressed without having the major symptoms and still be depressed. Okay? You can not even show one of the common symptoms and still be in a depressive mode. Okay. So the reality is that it doesn't show up the same in everybody, but I guarantee you that we've all been through moments where something really hard happened in life and we had a moment, and that moment might have lasted for a day. That moment might have lasted for hours. That moment might have lasted for a week. That moment might have lasted for a year. And then you were okay after a while because you got over it, or you figured it out, or you were able to clear something up. But at the end of the day, I think we all have had a bout of situational depression. And again, if we start normalizing talking about depression and normalizing the fact that it's not that person over there, but it's somebody in our house, it's us. We've dealt with it before. I've dealt with situational depression many a times. The reality of it is that I think we all have. So if we can have more empathy and say, I've been there, maybe not to the level you have, maybe I don't know exactly what you've been there with, but I've dealt with some really hard moments, and I want to be there for you. If you need to talk, I'm there for you to talk. If you need me to check in on you or call you a doctor, I'm here for you. I'll be there. If you're scared to go to see somebody, I'll go with you. These are the things we need to be doing more than just saying, ooh, I can't believe they said something like that. It's just these ideas that it's them and not us. It makes you really cold-hearted, and it makes you dismissive, and it makes you just insensitive to people's situation. And I don't think you really want to be that way, right? So I'm gonna give some myths I hear about depression, and then I'm gonna I think I'm gonna be wrapping up here. Here's one about kids. I think that's hard. I haven't heard this before, but I'll say it. They said mental illness in children is caused by bad parenting. Not true. Not true. That is not the only way that can happen. Just like adults, mental illness in children can be due to biological, environmental, and psychosocial factors. So just because your child has mental illness does not mean that you are a bad parent. Okay, so if your child tells you they have mental health stuff or they're dealing with depression, don't beat yourself up and say, oh, we're not telling anybody because I don't want anybody to think I'm a bad parent. No, it doesn't mean you're a bad parent. They're not blaming you. It's just the thing of they're dealing with it. And so, don't listen to people when they say that, okay? And don't tell yourself that, right? These are some things that we tell ourselves sometimes. So that's one myth I want to bust. Here's another one. Mental disorders have no effect on your physical health. Didn't I just say that that is completely false? Mental disorder increase the risk of getting ill from other stuff like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, stroke, high blood pressure. Oh my God, it's so many different things that depression can lead to. So let's be very careful about like saying that it doesn't have any physical health. Like we always try to minimize it because we think, oh, it's not the physical stuff, but it will turn physical. So let's do better. Here's another myth. Depression will just go away with time. It will not. It's not true. Depression will not just go away with time. I'm sorry. It will likely persist if left untreated, and that could affect health outcomes. Meaning, if you pretend that it's not there and just say it's going to get better on its own, because my auntie said that when she had depression after her husband died, that it was only like that for a year and she was better. And so you think you're going to just wait it out and it's going to happen just like your auntie happened? Stop it. Everybody's different. And just because your auntie says she's not depressed no more don't mean she's not depressed no more. So, your auntie might not even know that she's still depressed. Let's talk about it because it's not the common symptoms all the time. It's so many different symptoms, and until you go get diagnosed, you won't know. And if you don't go get it treated, did you hear me say 35% of people who have depression don't even go seek treatment? That's a huge number. I want that number down to 0, but I'll be happy with 5%. That's how we get that to happen, by talking about it. It will not go away on its own. And then I'm about to hurt somebody's feelings, but I don't care. If I pray about mental health, about depression, or if I ask God to take it away, I won't be depressed anymore. Now, this is a hard one because I'm a person of faith. And I believe in prayer, and I believe in God's healing, and it's immediate healing. I 100% believe in it. And I know he can do it, and he has done it. But I'll give you a better example. God can heal cancer. God can heal diabetes. God can heal obesity. But just because he doesn't heal it doesn't mean he failed you. God will choose what miracles he'll do for different reasons, things that I can't explain to you, and I'm not going to try to explain with you. But something we need to realize is God has put doctors on this earth. People go to school for this. God has put medicine here. He's advanced technology. And so when little Pookie and them get shot, what you do? You take them to the doctor. Okay? You go let them take the medicine. You let them put the narcotics in them so they can feel better. So I'm not saying God can't do it. What I'm saying is that you can pray and you can have faith he can do it. But I also believe that it's nothing wrong to go get help. I just don't like the rhetoric that I'm going to pray and then it's going to go away. I'm not saying God can't do it, but I believe in prayer and deliverance. I believe in miracles and medicine. I believe that God can do it, but also he wants us to do what we need to do first. I think sometimes I heard someone say that it was really good. They said God works in the realm of the over and beyond, right? Like we supposed to do what we can do first and then give the rest to God. What did he say? Faith without works is dead, right? So that means if we can do something, we should. And then it couples with our faith so that we can do more and God can do something with it. So this whole idea of us not even trying to get some help and then just suffering in silence. I know people who have committed suicide that were Christians. And I'm tired of people giving the whole rhetoric, oh, they committed suicide, so they really couldn't be a Christian. Stop it. You can love God and be depressed. Sorry to tell you it's true. You can love God and be depressed. You're not cursed. You didn't do something so bad that's your punishment. Most times it's a chemical imbalance. It's a chemical imbalance. So it's okay. Let's stop ostracizing people who have dealt with depression and make them feel like they are cursed and they just don't, the faith is not strong enough and God doesn't love them enough. I'm so tired of that rhetoric. That is so not okay. You push people out and ostracize them because they don't, because they're dealing with something just like you're dealing with your diabetes, just like you're dealing with your high blood pressure. But because they're dealing with depression, to you, that's just worse or it's crazy. They don't have faith enough in God. Stop it. Stop it. So that's a myth that I know is controversial, but sorry. I mean, no, we're not going to do that. Absolutely not. So, and again, I'm going to say the disclaimer too. There are many people who do get healed from it, and it's fine that you're healed from it. And it's, I mean, glory to God that happened. If that's your situation, if that's you, and you know, that's amazing. But I also believe that I would hope that just as, let's say this, I could say I ate bad every single day and never, like, you ever see somebody that's real slim and they like, oh, I eat steaks every day and I eat this, that, and they look like they're healthy and they don't have any health, issues that you see. Just because they look healthy doesn't mean you can eat all that stuff too, because you can eat it and have a heart attack. You get what I'm saying? We got to be good stewards over our lives, right? Use everything that they that is given to us, right? I'm sorry, I kind of went left with that, but I hope you guys get that. I really get concerned about that sometimes. Mama Pat, you said God delivered you from depression. Absolutely, and I know it can happen, so I know that to be true. Absolutely, but then you also said, I asked him the question, how do I become a person that I was? And he took me back to that thing. And you also had counseling. Y'all see this? She said she went to counseling as well. So it's not as though she did not go ahead through the steps. She actually did. So faith without works is dead. God can start a work in you and then you can finish it by going ahead and taking the necessary steps. If I want God to heal me of obesity, guess what? He ain't gonna I ain't gonna wake up and I'm gonna just be skinny tomorrow. That's not what's gonna happen. I have to commit to a plan and I can give it to him and then start eating better, start being more active. I'm sorry, there's no supernatural weight loss. Sorry, I'm getting beyond myself a little bit. Faith without works is dead. This is not a Christian show that I'm talking about right now. But that was a myth I was dispelling. Sorry, guys. I got a little passionate about it. Hey, JC. Oh, my goodness. You walked into on some stuff. So, okay. Anyway, so that's another myth that I dispelled. Let's see. Do I have a good one here? I'm sorry. I have a whole list of them, and I can't go through them all because it's almost time to go. Mental health, depression is a result of bad relationships. The reality is it's not just a result. Like I said, a traumatic event can cause it, but it's also combinations of genetic, biology, environmental. It's just one of the many ways, right? And many causes. Here it is. Treatment for for depression or mental health illnesses is a cop out or for weak people. Come on, guys. Just like I said, you are strong if you get help. I'm not going to call anybody weak because people are different levels, but you are strong if you ask for help. A person that can ask for help is so empowering. It's the same way as somebody saying, I want to get out of debt. You could just stay in debt forever, but if you say, I want to get out of debt and you make the steps, you first have to admit that you have an issue and then say, hey, I need help. Same thing here. I'm dealing with depression. I'm going to ask somebody for help and I will work on getting the help that I need. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it's not weak at all. That is a myth. It is a myth. Let's see. Last thing I want to use. This one is hard. I don't know who's watching, but I just want to be honest. Sometimes in the African American community or some minority communities, one thing I've heard a lot, and I told y'all I have to talk about it like this, but depression is what white people have, or this is what other races have. Black people don't have no, depression. That's not true. We don't deal with depression. And that's the biggest crock of crap I ever heard. It's the biggest crock. It is horrible. Are y'all serious? We don't deal with depression? Are y'all kidding me? Not only do we deal with depression, I think we deal with it in higher rates. Because guess what? If they're dealing with depression, at least they go on to the doctor. At least they go to a therapist. At least they go on to get the help. We find it despicable and we just suffer in silence because we want to be the strong woman. We want to be the strong man. This is what our plight is. This is what you deal with. Man up. Girl, you better toughen up. Ain't nobody gonna care about you crying. And so now we gotta hurry up and wipe our tears away. And we can't be honest about these things that we're feeling. We don't go get the help. We feel like if we do that, that's us being white, or you selling out, or you weak-minded. Man, listen, y'all, I feel like majority of the violence in our communities, let's talk about it. I think we just talked about PTSD. There's also something called post-slavery traumatic disorder, and that comes from anybody who was descendants of slavery, and we did not really fully wipe all the residual effects that are coming down from it through our bloodlines away, and so we keep it perpetuating in our communities, and we're dealing in silence, and we're dealing with these toxic things. And so I think we're dealing with it, and that's why you see the violence. A lot of times when you see the shootings, you cannot tell me these young boys are not depressed. You cannot tell me when you look at them and you see nothing behind their eyes. They were failed by systems. They were failed by people. They were failed by so many things. And guess what? We could throw them away. We're willing to throw them away because we're hurt because of what they did. But we're not being honest that they've been hurt for a long time. And although it doesn't justify what they did, if you can't understand why they did it, it's going to continue to happen. Again, if you cannot understand the past, you won't get to understand the future. You won't know how to change the future. I see they're depressed. And unless we have these talks and these conversations to penetrate the hearts and the minds of some of these people and try to get them before they get to these levels of no return, then we're going to continue to have the same things we see, and we're going to blame it on everything and everybody. But we don't realize we're part of the problem and that we're not courageous enough to talk about it and be a solution. So I'm sorry, I talked a lot. I talked for a long time today. I hope this helped somebody, guys. I love you guys. I'm just really passionate about this. That's why I want to talk about it. That's why I wanted to dispel some of the myths. That's why I wanted to get this conversation out. I think this is going to be a good series. Like I told y'all, this don't have to be about sadness all the time, but it's about us being honest about this depression thing and stop trying to push it down and shh, don't say that word. Oh, that's not what we deal with. Yes, we do deal with it. We deal with it in alarming rates. And we need to start talking more about it. It is not dirty. It's not a secret. Let's just be honest about it so we can deal with it right. So I love you guys. Thank you, Mom and Pat. Thank you, Yolanda. Thank you for anybody. Thank you, Whitney, for y'all all commenting and chiming in on this topic. I'm gonna have a lot of topics on this more exciting topics all this month when we talk about depression. That's why I do it. Yolanda, you said you appreciate it. You never told anyone anything. See, and that's what I'm talking about. This is why I do this, because you probably didn't feel comfortable telling anybody. And I want us to get out of that. I want us to make a comfortable place for people to talk and not be judged. This is a judgment-free zone. Why is it judgment-free zone? Because we all go through it. And I will not let anybody make anybody feel crazy about it, because we all have done it. Point me somebody who says that they have not been through it. Let them talk to me. I promise you. Mama Pat, thank you. Love you guys. Have a great weekend. I'll be back Tuesday. And like I said, don't forget that you are enough. You're enough. And guess what? If somebody try to tell you different, tell them to talk to me. Bye, guys. Do something nice for yourself this weekend. You deserve it. Self-care is always a priority. Bye, guys.